Okay, we're going to learn complex numbers. We're going to go through some problems that you'll see in your homework working with complex numbers. First, I want to give you the definition of complex numbers, not a difficult number. It's just the mix of a real and imaginary together. Notice the real is usually in the back, and the imaginary is the real is in the front, and the imaginary is in the back. The definition of I, they came about working out a problem, and you end up with a negative under the radical. They had to have a way of tagging the problem. So they used this lowercase I to tag the problem, but it actually just represents the square root of -1. And you're going to see throughout problems we work out, we're going to notice the I quite often. Okay, now we need to talk about the powers of I. They come in a cycle of 4. I to the first power, like I said, is just the square root of -1. Now to get an I squared, you take these and multiply them. So you lose your radical and you end up with just -1. And then if you take these two to get an I cubed, this times this, then you're back to a -I. And then I to the fourth is taking, like, imagine 2I squareds, so a -1 times a -1, and you get the +1. The thing to remember is they cycle. So it's every 4, and you get these same powers. So you're going to be asked to find, like, I to the 12th. So just count it out. This is I to the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's on this level, so you would answer that with 1. The next one, 22. So if we know we're at 12 here, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. So we're landing on this one, so you're going to say -1. So I'll do one more. So we're counting out to 31. So we were here at 22. So 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. We land on I to the 3rd. So that's a -I. So just count them out. They're in a cycle of 4. And these are your 4 options. Okay, so here's what happens. So you're working a problem out and you got the square root of -81. You can't do that on the calculator. It will say error. You can't take the square root of a negative. But what you can do is imagine, like, taking the negative out, and I always refer to that as pull your I out. And so you're going to do it this way. You're going to do, like, the square root of -1 and then the square root of 81. So together, that's an I times 9, but we put the number in front of the I, and so you answer this as 9I. So these are really quick. You just, once you see one of them, you understand what's going on. So you're going to have an I with this answer. But what's the square root of 144? Well, it's 12. And so you say 12I. You have some like terms. These are binomials, but you only add up like terms. So 8 and -12 are real. So those added together give you -4. The 7I plus 11I would be 18I. And always keep the real and then the imaginary, like that. Okay, for these two, be careful with the subtraction sign, same thing, look for like terms. The -7 minus the 3 is -10. 4I minus 2I is a +2I. So that's how you write that one. And then if we have little monomials that contain i's, you're going to do it this way. You're going to multiply these by doing 8 times 3 and then I times I. Now the thing you got to remember, anytime you have an I squared, you see those a lot, you need to replace that with a -1. Remember the powers of I. And then when you replace that, then the answer is actually -24. So that's how you simplify those. Make sure you do that. Now this is a binomial times a binomial. And so you're going to use first, outer, inner, and last. And then you'll have some simplifying you need to do after that. So let's do this one. So 8 times 2, 16. 8 times -3i, -24i. 5i times 2, 10i. 5i, -3i, minus 15i squared. Now we have these here in the middle, but I want to show you this here at the end. This happens a lot. The I squared is the same thing as -1. -1 times -15 turns back into a +15, okay? So this 15 with the 16 turns into 31, and then in the middle you get the -14i. One more. So again, first outer inner last, you're going to do -5 times -5. And then you're going to do the outer, -5, 6i, so it'll be -30i. And do it again in the middle. And then at the end, you have a positive 6i and a positive 6i. It's positive 36i squared. But remember that turns into a minus 36. And so that is negative 11 and a minus 60i. And this is some funny memes I have found. I squared, I keep it real. And here, with Thanksgiving coming up, square root of -1 is I over 8. Person's on the scales. And then this one, why can't we be together? You can't put that with this because it's complex. Okay, you're going to have some equations to solve. These should all, if you graph them out, every one of them will not cross the x-axis because they're going to be imaginary. What you do is subtract 81. And then to get x squared down to an x, you take the square root of both sides. But here's the part that students forget. You always need a plus or minus, and this will be 9i. Don't lose your plus or minus on those. Imaginaries always come in pairs, and so you have that plus or minus. Subtract the 7 on this one. Square root it, plus or minus. Here your I comes out, the 7 stays, it's not a perfect square, but the I always sits in front of the radical, so that's something you got to get used to. And then the last one, subtract 32. Divide both sides by 2, and then take the square root. And it's 4 plus or minus 4i.